Starting out in yoga, I was completely clueless about what I was getting myself into and where exactly it would take me. All I knew was that having improved mobility and flexibility would allow me to avoid unnecessary injuries, so it made sense for me to get into. What I didn't know was that yoga would eventually become a bridge that would lead me to a better sense of well-being and self-understanding. I'm only a year into a consistent practice, and so I still consider myself a beginner, but I'd like to share with you how yoga has transformed different areas of my life and how through constant challenge and sometimes real frustration, it's allowing me to connect with myself deeper and improve not just physically, but mentally and emotionally as well. I didn't start to realize this until recently, but despite always associating yoga to these very extreme body positions I see people doing on Instagram, flexibility actually makes up a very small portion of what yoga is. The truth is, you don't have to aspire to being able to be a human pretzel to be able to reap the rewards that yoga has to offer. In my experience, the physical aspect of yoga is just the expression of a much deeper core philosophy. In the beginning, for me, it was definitely just a physical practice, but over time, it started becoming more and more of a spiritual practice for me. I used to constantly compare myself to other people in the yoga class who I perceived as doing better than me. I'm so used to a world of competition. So I look out of the corner of my eyes when I'm in a pose and see what other people are doing, and kind of finding myself in an envious position. But it's different for me now because I've come to realize that yoga is a very personal journey. And it doesn't matter where you start or how far you go or how advanced you get in the type of poses you do. None of that really matters. What matters over time is how well we learn to honor ourselves and listen to ourselves and eventually get to a point where we developed a very strong foundation of calmness and control throughout the practice. So the physical aspect of yoga is more like a gateway to get yourself to the philosophy of self-discovery and learn how to connect with yourself on a deeper level. It's kind of like someone who's an artist, right? And they use paint as a tool to express themselves creatively, to express a message or a philosophy or an idea, right? It's not about the paint. That person might not consider themselves a painter, but the paint is a tool that acts as an outlet for their expression. In the same way, the physical aspect of yoga could be viewed as the tool or the expression that is used to lead us to a deeper level of self-understanding and self-discovery. There's an unexpected spiritual aspect to yoga that I've come to appreciate, and it's the nostalgia of youth that it brings. As my practice has continued to progress, I've sort of felt the spirit of my inner child lift up as my mobility has progressed, because it feels like you feel more youthful when you don't notice restrictions in your everyday movements. The way I view it, young is an age, right? Being young is an age thing, but youth is a feeling. Yoga has helped give me the feeling of youth back, and it really doesn't take a significant commitment. It just requires consistency. Here's a question for you. When's the last time you just gave your body to gravity? When's the last time you just allowed your body to just lay on the hard ground and let gravity manipulate it however it does? And I'm not talking about being in bed or on a couch. I mean just laying on the ground and just giving yourself to the force of gravity. If you've ever watched children, or if you remember being a kid yourself, like we would do it all the time because it feels good to just lay on the ground and let your body adjust and fall wherever it falls. It feels good to spread your legs and just let your head drop between your legs and look behind you. It feels good to lay on your back and just put your feet in the air and grab your feet and just let the force of gravity weigh you down. I think the reason we used to do that, and why children still do, of course, is that it's a form of self-play with your own body. It's a form of self-exploration and self-adventure. And I think at some point, after childhood and maybe before the teenage years, we're so focused on trying to become adults and run away from being children that we stop doing youthful things. We stop doing things that appear to be childlike or immature. And those were the very things that helped keep our body mobile and flexible and enjoyable to use and manipulate. The thing that's been a bit of a surprise for me with yoga is just the wide range of emotions I can experience while doing it. For example, when I'm trying out a new pose and I'm trying to focus on kind of striking a balance and figuring out what parts of my body to relax, what parts of the body to contract, and I'm focused on the sensations I'm experiencing in my body, something that will often occur is that I'll lose focus on breathing. So my breathing won't be consistent and it won't be as deep anymore. And then when my breathing is all kind of chaotic, it leads to like frustration and overwhelm. And then it causes my body to become more tense and more rigid, and I kind of I lose balance. And then before I know it, I come out of the pose and I'm frustrated, I'm overwhelmed. And then there's a wide range of like emotions like that comes just out of the effort to learn a new pose or to hold the pose and discover how I need to use my body in order to find stability in it. It's a really great experience because it allows me to learn how to better manage and regulate my emotions. And in doing that, it leads to a calmer and more successful experience in the yoga class. Having a calm mind is the precursor to having a calm body. That was insightful for me. I never really put that together before. So what I realized is that when the mind and body are both calm, it creates a certain harmony. And that centeredness leads to a really interesting feeling of like peace and maybe euphoria. And in this interesting state of being centered, it feels like my energy is pulled in real close, as opposed to shooting off in all different directions and my mind thinking about different things in my life. Instead, it's everything's right here. And I think that feeling of bliss comes from your mind and your body coming together with one common goal, and then having like a calm and deep and regulated breath acts as glue that holds it all together. And I totally understand why people can call that a spiritual experience, because in that moment, you kind of disassociate yourself from everything that makes up you. And all that you really feel is your awareness observing that moment. You forget about all the things that were stressing you out in your life, or what you have to do after the class, or what you did before the class, and you're just focusing there. And when your mind is focused on a single moment, there's this state of bliss and calmness that comes over you. And it trickles out into other areas of your life. And I think that experience, that feeling, that state is a big reason why, when people have anxiety or depression or they've had a really rough week, people recommend them to go do yoga because it helps you to kind of realign yourself. Another unexpected benefit that this practice has given me is a deeper connection with myself. I've noticed that yoga has this way of guiding you towards honoring your body and expanding your boundaries, both literally and figuratively. Yoga requires patience with your body and the intent to listen to your body. Because for example, I have very tight hips. Whenever I'm putting myself in a position where I'm kind of expanding my boundaries there, I have to walk a fine line between going to my edge and kind of staying there and allowing my body to slowly over time loosen up, versus going to my edge and going beyond it to a point where you can, find yourself being injured or straining a certain part of your body. But the thing is with yoga, it allows you to learn how to find that edge and then working within it, as opposed to messing around and just unintentionally going beyond that edge. The level of concentration and care and compassion that yoga asks of you to have with your body is a form of self-love. Yoga teaches you how to listen to your own body for your own well-being. And I think that's awesome. The thing I always find amazing to think about when it comes to yoga is that it's an ancient practice. I kind of view it as like an ancient science, with the goal and the intent of connecting your body, your mind, and your spirit all through one very simple practice. Not always easy, but it's a simple practice. People often associate yoga to like calmness. It's just interesting because the first several months of me doing yoga, it was nothing but like inner turmoil and chaos. I was doing Bikram hot yoga. I don't do it anymore for various reasons, but if you're not familiar with it, it's basically doing yoga in a heated room. So it almost felt like a sauna in there. I had to bring a towel to put on my mat because the whole thing would be soaked by the end of the class. And the interesting thing is I remember every class, at some point I would mentally be struggling with myself, trying to decide if I even wanted to come back, because it was so mentally and physically torturous, especially as someone who has a really tight body, going through that. And every class I just wanted to kind of give up and just leave. And I'm just like, nah, I'll finish this class and then I'm not coming back. And I always came back until I stopped doing that class. But I didn't stop because of how hard it was. I stopped because I decided from research I was doing that hot yoga in a heated room actually wasn't as beneficial as non-heated rooms because of interoception. You improve your interoception by being in a non-heated room. When you're in a heated room, your body heats up, but it's not generated by your own body's temperature. So long story short, I decided I didn't want to do it anymore, and so I haven't. But no matter what yoga class I've done, it teaches you, or taught me, to be mentally tough. Because usually in our lives, especially like our physical lives, when we reach our physical edge with something, we immediately, it's a reflex to like pull back from it. It's an instinct. So what's beautiful about yoga is that it teaches you the opposite. It teaches you to seek out your edge, to seek out your limit, and then sit with it, find peace with it, knowing that if you do that consistently, you'll be able to broaden your physical abilities. You'll be able to improve your mobility and your flexibility and be able to go beyond your old edge and be able to be strong and safe in that position. And that skill set of being able to regulate your emotions and your mindset and your situation in that circumstance is something that carries along with us throughout all areas of our life, our relationships, our work life, our ability to maintain and go through challenging times with friendships. Is all connected to our ability to have self-awareness and then self-control in challenging times, right? It's a one-to-one comparison because it applies like directly. I view yoga as an active form of meditation. It's mindfulness, but like you're physically active, right? And one of the great things I learned about like through yoga, you can expand your mind, like your conscious awareness, into different parts of your body and kind of see the state of your body very clearly, if that makes sense at all. Let me explain more. Through yoga, I learned about interoception. Interoception, if you're not familiar, is kind of like a sixth sense. The accumulation of the signals that we have within our body that paints a picture for us of our internal state. For example, your awareness of being hungry, being aware of discomfort or pain, the sensation, like the internal sensation of breathing, feeling your heartbeat. So yoga has really helped me improve and develop that sixth sense, that sense of interoception. And I noticed it a lot when I'm working out. When I'm doing bends, I'm feeling like the muscle fibers stretching. I'm feeling them contract way more deeply than I ever have. My joints, when I have joint pain, I notice it way better. I used to not notice when I was in pain. I didn't notice when I was injured, and that's why I played through it and it made it so bad. Now I'm getting a better sense of the position that my body's in. Improving interoception is really just improving your mind-body connection. So the reason interoception is so important in improving it is because when you have awareness of the very intricate details in your body, you're able to identify that to be able to relax it, to be able to put your whole body into a relaxed state. Like, when you wake up from a really great night of sleep and the alarm goes off, you feel amazing, but you notice that like you're sunk into the bed, your body's kind of melted into the bed. Sometimes you can't even really identify where the bed ends and your body begins because everything's just loose. It feels all together. Why do you think that is, right? I only just realized the reason it feels so good waking up in the morning after a good night's sleep is because your body has released in its entirety. Most of us never get to a point throughout our day where our body is completely at rest. Even when we're laying down on the couch, like watching TV or something like that, or watching a movie, we still hold tension somewhere in our neck, in our shoulders. We're propping ourselves up. Improving the interoception allows you to be better aware of your body's position and what's being contracted, what has tension, so that you can intentionally release it. And being able to almost relax on command has been helpful to me, even emotionally, because sometimes, depending on what's going on that day, I might feel anxious, have anxiety kind of bubbling up, or maybe I'm just overstimulated, too much things going on, and I'll notice my jaw being clenched, my teeth grinding, my hands tensing up. That takes a toll on the body. Your nervous system kind of recognizes that it's stress. Releasing that can significantly improve your experience of your day. So just as an example, if you're curious, I suggest watching videos on how to do it, but a simple example is just laying down, focusing your mind on like your left big toe, for example, and just noticing how it feels. Feeling the fabric against the skin. Is there a breeze going by that you feel on your toe? Really putting your mind there, specifically like in your toe, and then slowly expanding your awareness to like maybe the back of your left calf, and then expanding it up to your knee in your mind, and then up to your hip. And then before you know it, you're expanding it into your neck, and you're expanding it into your shoulders, and you're realizing how tense your shoulders are, and you're relaxing it. And you just continuously expand your awareness to your whole body. And then by the end of it, you do that over a couple minutes, you're deeply in tune with the sensations in your body. It's a powerful ability to develop. And I still got a lot of developing to do, but I see the benefit of it. I see how it can be useful to me in my everyday life. I think it's safe to say that one of the common associations that people have when they consider the elderly is they think about fragility. People that are, maybe a bit slower, a bit weaker, a bit more fragile. If they fall, they're gonna get hurt. Be kind of careful around them, right? For people that have that association, you can't really blame them because it's such a common thing. When people are old, you typically see them a lot more fragile, right? And the reality is, when people lose quality of life through age, mobility is one of those things. Like, it feels bad to not be able to use your body to move around, to be limited on what you can do based on your body being broken down. So naturally, I think that leads a lot of people to think, okay, well, just as you age, your body breaks down. The older you get, the more fragile you're going to be, and there's nothing you can do about it, right? What I come to realize is that even though it's true that as we age, it's harder to retain muscle mass, that doesn't speak to our ability to be flexible and mobile. It's not that as we age, our range of motion, our flexibility reduces. It's that as we age, most people don't use their range of motion and their mobility. And so our body adapts to the environment we put it in. If you go 30 years not using your ability to do the splits, your body's not going to be able to do the splits. You've probably heard that phrase, use it or lose it. I've never heard anything apply so perfectly to that as when it comes to mobility and flexibility. It makes sense to me to do what I can to live as great and free as I can for as long as I can while I can, because I've seen people that are 60, 70 years old that didn't live an active lifestyle, that don't do yoga, right? Everyone's seen what that looks like. And then you go to these yoga classes and you see people that have done yoga for 30 years. Some are like up there in age, 70 years old. They've only been doing yoga for like 8 years. But you see what it has allowed them to do. There's a compound effect when you're doing things a few times a week for years. So I've seen the duality of having a body that's been honored and a body that hasn't. And I want to honor my body. Quality of life is everything to me. It's the pinnacle of everything that I do in my life. And because it's my highest priority, when I started having these realizations through this yoga class, it stopped just being something I do to stay in shape, and it's become something that I commit my life to. Every week, I want to do yoga for the rest of my life. Every week. One of my biggest and only true challenges, as far as I'm concerned, in my yoga practice is learning to maintain connection with my breath. 4 seconds in, 4 seconds out, on repeat as I'm doing each pose. And as challenging as it's been, it hasn't been without me learning a lot. I've realized that the breath not only helps you with regulating your emotions, as I touched on earlier, but for releasing tension. It's one thing to identify tension in your body and have the intent to release and relax it, but learning how to really calmly breathe in and breathe out and take deep breaths allows you to really melt in to your body and discover the potential that your body has to offer you. I guess I always just thought that breathing was natural and there wasn't, a way to learn how to use it more effectively, but I was totally wrong. I've developed a huge appreciation for the exhale and the inhale, separately. The inhale, allowing your body to develop strength and stability and take up space in like your abdomen, and then the exhale to kind of fill that space and to really sink into it, and just learning how to take pressure off of my back by breathing and using my core. Like, there's little almost like tricks of the physical trade that I didn't know before, and I'm just developing a larger and larger appreciation for it as I continue on to practice. I think that's an important realization I just had right now, is that yoga allows you to make your nervous system feel safe and feel in control. All my life, the driving force behind everything adventurous that I've ever done came from an internal place of deep curiosity. It's like an internal sensation that says, I wonder if I do this, what will come from it? What will happen? What am I capable of? What will it feel like to accomplish this? It's curiosity. In the beginning for me, the curiosity was from a place of wondering if I commit to yoga for a few months, Will I stop having pain in my knee? Will I be able to bend over without my back hurting? Will I be able to jump without my back hurting? Will stretching help release that? And it did. But the next curiosity was very simple. It was very small. It was just wondering, can I stand with a straight leg and touch my toes? Because that was something that I've never been able to do, always been tight. After doing that, my curiosity started turning to challenging myself physically and in more complex ways, like doing inverted poses. And that's something that I never even considered trying to do. But the thought of it, my curiosity about the potential for doing that got me excited. And so I started committing towards that. And yoga is so unique because it doesn't matter how much time you commit to the practice. There are so many different poses in yoga that it's impossible to master every single one. Like there's thousands. And so if you're someone like me that really likes to challenge yourself and really like to see what you're capable of, yoga it's a buffet of options and progression, like steps to progress in each pose that anybody at any level can do it. It doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are, how much experience you've had. There's a foundational spot that anyone can start from and then slowly progress. The biggest and most valuable change that yoga has made to my life is also the most subtle one. And it just comes down to the way that I use my body in my day-to-day life. The way I bend over to open the fridge and pull something off the shelf. The way I tie my shoes or sit down or get up. The poses I do in yoga translate directly into my everyday lifestyle one-to-one. And it completely makes my movements more efficient, more strong, and with a greater ease. The practice has completely changed the way I experience and associate with my body. And the thing is, I know what it feels like to have a really lingering, long, delayed injury in my lower back. To have knees and joints that are just that feel weak, and it feels like it can never get right. I know what it feels like to be a slave to a broken body. And like I've shed tears in the past over injuries that after months of really making an effort to improve it didn't improve, because I would think about the possibility that it would never go better. And 20 years from now, I look back on my life and realize that was the moment when your life changed forever. It was scary thinking about that. And so I know what it feels like, and I'll do everything in my power to never go back to being in a vulnerable physical position. I just think that a lot of people, including myself, takes for granted how much freer it feels to have a body that works with you instead of against you. And for me, it makes for a duller experience. I like to travel, I like to hike, I like to push myself, and life can be challenging on its own with all the responsibilities and stress that comes with navigating this thing. And if we have the choice, I think it's so important. It's so important to do well by our body and to really keep this machine well oiled. To kind of take from a popular quote, I think most people underestimate what they can do in just a year, even in just a month. If I had some way of knowing just how much better I would feel and the different dimensions that I'd be able to improve myself from this practice of doing yoga, I wouldn't have waited until my 30s to really commit myself to it. So if you've ever felt that you needed a nudge, or you've been curious but you needed a little bit of encouragement, a sign to give yoga a try and commit to it for even just a few months and see how differently you can feel, I hope this video has been that for you. If you're looking for something else to watch, you could give this video a try. And as always, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next video.